The soul, as the core of a flesh and blood life form, to cause it to undergo a large change, at least the current Luo Feng had no way of doing it. Slowly, Luo Feng gritted his teeth and continued to accept the demon note inheritance. One step at a time. On average, he would only advance one step a day. In the blink of an eye, a few months had passed. On the 1236th step, Luo Feng, who was completely covered in armor, knelt on one knee, panting softly. The piercing pain from his soul, endless fatigue, almost made him collapse. It's almost completely saturated. Luo Feng's eyes were filled with unwillingness. He felt the piercing pain from his soul, almost like he was being attacked by someone else's soul. That endless fatigue almost made him want to sleep. According to the information he received from the inheritance, this meant that Luo Feng's soul was almost completely saturated in terms of the inheritance. Even if he forced it, he would at most advance another 1 or 2 levels. Is this the end? Luo Feng looked up ahead. Level after level of stairs extending into the depths of space. Pa. Luo Feng's body moved, simultaneously stepping on the 1237th level stone stairs. Immediately a portion of the inheritance techniques entered his memories. However, Luo Feng didn't stop. Immediately moving forward again, attempting to reach the 1238th level. When Luo Feng reached the 1238th step, Wang Chang. The peculiar melody of the demon note drilled straight into Luo Feng's consciousness. Break. Within Luo Feng's consciousness, that incomparably firm willpower roared. However, that gentle and seemingly harmless demon note actually permeated Luo Feng's willpower and consciousness without a sound. Get out. Luo Feng condensed his willpower, wanting to repel the demon note from the outside world. However, his powerful willpower and consciousness had no way of resisting against the demon note. Slowly, Luo Feng had a feeling of when he was young, listening to his mother sing beside him. Big trouble? No. No. Luo Feng knew he was rash. He didn't receive any of the inheritances and directly charged in, encountering the most terrifying demon note suppression of Demon Note Mountain. Sleep. Sleep. Luo Feng felt his consciousness sink, all the way to the bottomless abyss. Luo Feng, who was standing on the 1238th step, closed his eyes and revealed a peaceful smile. Then, like a robot, he turned around and flew backward, landing on the 1237th floor. Mangji. The tone of the demonic tune changed. Luo Feng's consciousness continued to rise from the bottomless abyss, as though he had returned to reality from the dark world. Luo Feng fiercely opened his eyes. He woke up. Huff 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 huff. Luo Feng breathed heavily, beads of sweat appeared on his forehead and his face was pale. Too dangerous. Too dangerous. Earlier, I was actually unable to put up any resistance against that demonic sound. Luo Feng, who had always been extremely confident in his willpower and consciousness, felt like he had just survived a calamity. One had to know that the people who came here were basically all Undyings. How strong was the resistance of an Undying? The demonic sound could intimidate those gods, so how could it not intimidate Luo Feng? Luckily I guessed it back then. This demon note palace was specially designed for the inheritance, so it shouldn't pose any threat to the inheritor's life. Luo Feng felt his mind constantly receiving the information of the 1237th level of the inheritance stairs, looking up again at the end of the space in the shrine. He couldn't accept it. He really couldn't accept it. The cloud contact vine's main vines can reach up to 3,000 kilometers. I wonder if I can reach it. Luo Feng thought. Even though he felt that there shouldn't be any loopholes in the design of the Demon Note Palace, he couldn't help but want to try. He immediately extended his right hand and a thin vine extended from his right sleeve. Chi. It continued to extend. The cloud contact vine quickly grew thicker and longer, extending towards the depths of space. When the cloud contact vine had just reached universe level, its 72 main vines were already 300 kilometers long. Right now, the domain lord level cloud contact vines were already 3,000 kilometers long. With its size, if it was placed in the center of China, its vines could cover the entire country. There's actually no resistance. No resistance at all? Luo Feng was filled with disbelief. He looked at the vine that had already extended into the distant space. Palace. The vine immediately pierced into the palace. Luo Feng's expression changed. The palace that he could see with his naked eye was actually like air. The vine's long vine swept through the palace, yet it didn't touch anything at all. What's going on? Luo Feng controlled the vine to sweep in all directions. The energy rippled. But no matter if the cloud contact vine swept past the palace or the inheritance steps, it was like it was sweeping through the air. This. Luo Feng was shocked. Following which, a second vine extended from his right hand and touched the stone stairs below him. The vine passed through the stairs almost like it was passing through air. How can it be like this? Luo Feng frowned. Luo Feng, I finally understand. Take out another robot and see the effect. Babata's voice resounded in Luo Feng's mind. Luo Feng nodded. As he made the cloud contact vine that extended over 1,000 kilometers shrink, simultaneously he took out another robot from his space ring. This robot was completely gold in color. It was a random metal guard that Luo Feng had gotten from the Virtual Universe Company when he requested for some items. The metal guard was similar to the liquid silver guard, only it was more durable. These robots were all given to Luo Feng for free by the Virtual Universe Company. The metal guard floated in mid-air and respectfully stood before Luo Feng, Master, step on the stairs. Luo Feng ordered. Yes. The metal guard immediately descended and stepped on it. Oh, similarly it stepped on nothing. DDD. The gold guard's red crystal eyes immediately flashed with large amounts of words, as though he was swiftly calculating something. After which, he turned to Luo Feng and said respectfully, Master, this staircase can be seen but cannot be stepped on. However, Master can step on it. The database doesn't have a logical explanation for this. Luo Feng nodded. With a wave of his hand he kept the robot in his space ring. Just as I guessed, it shouldn't be wrong. Babata's voice resounded. What's going on? Even though Luo Feng had a guess, he still asked. Luo Feng, this mysterious inheritance palace, all the treasures and whatnot, can only be obtained by the inheritor. Babata said, just like the inheritance your teacher left behind, letting me take in his disciple. The bank account he left behind can only be obtained after checking and verifying that it's his disciple. One theory. To be able to construct such a terrifying inheritance palace, existing for trillions of years, even able to create undying-level beasts. Even the virtual universe company has sent so many absolute undyings here. Obviously, Babata said confidently, that great being belongs to the true pinnacle eternal warriors of the universe, far surpassing your teacher. Luo Feng nodded. Right. That being who left behind the inheritance, his power had already far exceeded his imagination. After all, the demon notes he left behind could easily suppress undyings if he were to personally act. How ridiculous would that be? Hence, such a great being constructing this inheritance palace, all the treasures within can only be obtained by the inheritor. Babata said, it doesn't matter if you use a plant life form or a robot or a ship. As long as it's not the inheritor himself, you can't even touch the inheritance stairs and palace. It's almost like they exist in two different spaces. He couldn't even touch it. The use of space had already far exceeded his imagination. You are the inheritor, only you can touch the stairs and palace. Babata said, every inheritor must have a soul. Only then can they accept the demon note divine general's inheritance. However, a life form with a soul obviously can't resist the demon notes he left behind. We can only take it step by step. What if I can resist it? Luo Feng smiled. If he can resist the demon notes, it means that the one who came here is a great being. That kind of being coming, taking away the treasures is only natural. Babata said. Raising his head to look at the palace in the distance, he pondered as he accepted the inheritance. The setup is indeed perfect. The inheritance palace, only one life form can receive the inheritance at a time, and it can only be a soul form. Luo Feng exclaimed, and soul forms will definitely be suppressed by the demon notes. This way, I really have to follow that being's plan, accepting the inheritance step by step, all the way to the palace to receive the treasures. However, there are still some powerful life forms in the universe. Luo Feng stared at the palace in space. So, beside him appeared another black-clothed Luo Feng. His life energy was exactly the same as his earth body. It was the Mosha Clansman. My Mosha Clansman's natural talent, the clone, has the same energy as my earth body. Luo Feng stood where he was. At the same time, Mosha Luo Feng landed on the stairs. His feet landed firmly on the stone stairs. He landed firmly on the stone stairs. Very good. Mosha Luo Feng revealed a smile, immediately leaping up to the next level. Wang Chong. That terrifying demon note once again drilled into Mosha Luo Feng's body. However, demon note, accurately speaking, it was a soul-type hypnosis technique, an extremely terrifying hypnosis technique. Those who got hit would lose their consciousness and become zombies. Luo Feng's Mosha Clansman didn't carry the core. The original core continued to remain in the body of the Earthling. Without the core, the Mosha Clansman was just like a true Mosha Clansman. It wasn't afraid of any soul-type attacks. As long as it had anything to do with the soul, it would be completely useless against the Mosha Clansman. Right, just like that. Mosha Luo Feng smiled as he walked on the stairs, taking another step and another. The demon notes resounded, almost like a song celebrating Luo Feng's acquisition of the treasure. Step by step, step by step. The great being that left behind the demon note mountain inheritance probably didn't expect that a life form with a soul and a life form without a soul would actually be the same person. The demon notes resounded. If one didn't look at the bewitching effects of the demon notes, just listening to the music itself was incomparably beautiful. The stairs in space extended upwards level by level. Mosha Luo Feng became a beam of light, passing through level after level, very quickly arriving at the 3333rd step. This was the last step of the first part. And in front of Luo Feng was a palace that was about 1000 m tall. The outer walls were filled with all sorts of intricate carvings. The palace had two huge golden doors. The doors were wide open. Shrine. Luo Feng looked at the huge golden door emanating a shocking pressure. In front of this huge door that was a few hundred meters tall, he was like an ant. I'm here. Luo Feng immediately flew into the shrine. The hall was shrouded in fog, and above the fog floated a stone tablet. Mysterious words automatically appeared on the stone tablet. After a while, the mysterious words finished appearing. The content of the mysterious words was, "You are the 61201 inheritor who came here. You are qualified to receive the title of Primary Selection, and receive the Primary Selection's reward." The moment the words finished appearing, Luo Feng was looking about trying to find the treasure reward. Suddenly, to be able to arrive here, One is to have completed the 3333rd step of the first part, the other is like you, forcefully resisting the demon notes to arrive. A complex and mysterious voice resounded throughout the shrine. This language was never heard before, however Luo Feng understood immediately what it meant. Luo Feng was shocked when he heard it. Demon Mountain had existed for trillions of years, that great being should have left long ago. To be able to resist the demon notes, you have to be at least a universe knight. A great universe knight, already an overlord of a part of the universe, you actually covet this little toy I left behind. Ah, since you've personally made a trip here, take this little toy. After the voice finished, 2 energy balls floated out of the mist. A golden energy ball. A gray energy ball. Mosha Luo Feng stood within the shrine, looking up at the 2 floating energy balls, laughing within. I think that great being left behind some sort of warning within the inheritance palace. He probably realized that I didn't accept the 3333rd step and rushed up, thinking that I forcefully resisted the demon notes. However, he's really powerful. According to what he said, to be able to resist the demon notes, one has to be at least a universe knight. Luo Feng exclaimed. Venerables were divided into space venerables and time venerables. In the vast universe, he was indeed an overlord-level character, able to create a universe country, rule over 1 trillion galaxies and have countless citizens. Even amongst the pinnacle races, the human race, the universe country leaders were all big shots. In some of the weaker races in the universe, venerables were probably the pinnacle of power. From the looks of it, the one who left this inheritance should be stronger than the universe knight. Luo Feng's gaze landed on the 2 energy flows. Within the clouds, a golden stream of air and a gray stream of air constantly floated over. Boom. The gray gas exploded, revealing a strangely shaped gray stone plate floating inside. The stone plate was about 3 meters long and half a meter wide. At the same time, there were incomparably complicated natural patterns on the stone plate. The complicated patterns in the center of the stone plate formed the shape of a bird. The golden airflow exploded, revealing a sparkling and translucent golden fruit. At first glance, it looked a bit like the cantaloupe that Luo Feng had on Earth. However, even though this floating fruit was golden in color, it was translucent and one could faintly see the flesh inside. Moreover, it was surrounded by a golden airflow. A stone plate. A fruit. This was the treasure left behind by the inheritance palace. Luo Fu Liu bored. Babata was shocked. The punk who left this inheritance palace is really generous. The first treasure actually has the Luo Fu Liu board. What's that? Luo Feng asked. Luo Fu Liu board, it's similar to your dark cloud shuttle. Babata said, it's a flying weapon that can be stepped on. Flying spirit weapon? Luo Feng was curious. The spirit weapons of the universe to the current Luo Feng were considered very cheap. Those level 5 weapons may be expensive to sector lords, but Luo Feng didn't really care. However, this natural formed stone plate before him, Luo Feng had never seen or heard of it before. This Luo Fu Liu board, is it very valuable? Luo Feng asked. What a joke. Babata said, Luo Feng, those level 1 to 5 spirit weapons are for Undyings and below to use. Undyings can't be bothered to use those weapons. Even the Nanshin armament of the 9 godly weapons, unless it's a normal Undying, otherwise anyone with a bit of ability would change for a better one. Luo Feng nodded, he knew this. The weapons used by Undyings come from many sources. And the Luo Fu Liu board is considered one of the most valuable flying weapons used by Undyings. Those who own it, other than the few official level Undyings. Most of them are Emperor-level Undyings. Babata said, it's a naturally formed stone plate, naturally formed in the universe, its power is shocking. Luo Feng was stunned. Those who own it, very few are official level Undyings. Then what about my teacher? Luo Feng asked. Which teacher? Babata asked. If it's true Yin Emperor, he'll definitely be able to get his hands on such a treasure. And my master, he's slightly weaker. The flying weapon he used back then was much weaker than this. After all, the Luo Fu Liu board's price is between 1 to 2 million mixed elements, and very few people sell it. Luo Feng took a deep breath. He had to calm down. 1 to 2 million mixed elements? Vicious, truly vicious. Luo Feng felt that he was really poor. 1 million mixed elements, what concept was that? Back then Luo Feng had participated in an auction. Back then there was a small starfield, Tana Starfield. The entire starfield only sold for 1,000 mixed elements. Of course there was a small starfield. And the Black Dragon Mountain Starfield was a large starfield. The number of galaxies was 20 times that of the Tana Starfield. As the galaxies were all gathered together, it was more suitable for rule, the value could rise by tens of times, however the price was only between 300,000 to 1 million mixed elements. Normally 500,000 mixed elements was enough to buy the entire Black Dragon Mountain Starfield. 1 million mixed elements, that was definitely the limit. This stone plate can compare to the Black Dragon Mountain Starfield? Luo Feng took a deep breath. If you give this stone plate to that Undying in the sacred land Black Dragon Mountain, that Undying will definitely be extremely excited and willing to exchange with you. Babata said, no matter what, the Black Dragon Mountain Empire is only the private property of an Undying. Luo Feng nodded. He had to adjust his perspective, it was different from Earth, there were many countries in the universe that were private property. Like the Gangwu Universe country, it was the private property of the Gangwu Universe country leader. If there was a treasure that could raise the Gangwu Universe country leader's strength to the Primal Chaos City leader's level, The Ganwu Universe country leader would probably be extremely excited and willing to give up the Ganwu Universe country to exchange for that treasure. What's that fruit? Luo Feng asked. I don't know about that. I've followed your teacher for over 60 million years. I've seen and heard of many, but this golden fruit shape, I've never seen it before. I only know of another special golden fruit. Babata said, however it's obviously different from this one. Within the palace, Luo Feng looked up at the two floating treasures in the clouds. The exchange with Babata seemed to be long. In truth it was only an instant. At this time, the floating stone tablet in the clouds once again floated words. The beginner's rewards. The first is the Luo Fu Qi plate, a flying treasure for spirit readers. With it, the chances of survival in the dangerous universe is much higher. The second is the gold soul fruit, a mysterious fruit that only grows once every 3,000 years. It has the miraculous effect of changing the soul, making it more suitable for receiving inheritances. The first and second parts both have treasures that can change the soul. However, up till now, no life form has been able to receive the complete inheritance. Luo Feng realized. He immediately extended his hand. It automatically extended and grabbed the two treasures, swiftly keeping the Luo Fu Qi plate and the gold soul fruit into his space ring. The gold soul fruit, so it has the miraculous effect of changing the soul. Luo Feng nodded within. Right? If I was a great being that left behind an inheritance, I'd leave behind some treasures too, helping the later generations to receive the complete inheritance. Luo Feng thought, it's a pity even with the great being's help, the 100,000 life forms that came here, almost all Undyings, none of them succeeded. Mosha Luo Feng, after acquiring the two treasures, swiftly left the palace and flew downwards. So, he immediately flew downwards, from the highest level of the palace all the way to the 1237th level. Standing beside the earth body, he passed the space ring to the earth body and vanished into thin air, entering Luo Feng's internal world. Luo Feng stood on the 1237th step. Looking up at the distant palace, he revealed a smile. Haha, I've really hit the jackpot this time. Luo Feng revealed a look of glee. The universe is incomparably vast and mysterious. There are many fortuitous encounters. Only by grasping them can it be considered a success. I finally grasped it. With a flip of his hand, a completely golden, translucent fruit appeared in his hand. There was a visible golden energy flow around it. The gold soul fruit, it only bore fruit once every 3,000 years. According to the information in the palace, the gold soul fruit can change the soul, making it more suitable to receive the inheritance. Luo Feng didn't hesitate anymore, immediately biting down on the fruit. The moment he bit through the outer skin, immediately the flesh within swiftly flowed like an energy flow into his body. Chi chi chi. Even the golden skin became energy flow and flowed into Luo Feng's body. Luo Feng could only feel a cool energy flow into his body, after which it swiftly flowed into his core, permeating into the crystallized soul. The golden energy continued to flow in, and Luo Feng's soul swiftly underwent some changes. His entire soul changed from a blood-red color to a bit of gold. How comfortable. The piercing pain from before is gone. I don't feel tired at all. Instead I feel 100 times more energized. Luo Feng could clearly feel his soul transforming. Even the tiredness is gone. Luo Feng's eyes gleamed. Ha ha ha. I can receive even more inheritances. Luo Feng was overjoyed. Luo Feng, about the Luo Fu Qi board, let me remind you. Babata's voice resounded in his mind. His soul was constantly evolving. Luo Feng conversed with Babata. Absorbing the Luo Fu Liu board, is there anything I should remind you about? Using the Luo Fu Liu board is different from using a normal spirit weapon. Babata screamed. The Luo Fu Liu board already has some signs of life. Absorbing it is similar to absorbing the cloud contact vine back then. Cut my wrist. Luo Feng laughed. Anyway, you have to let it absorb your blood first. Babata said, even though it has some signs of life, it's not really alive. And the cloud contact vine is already alive. Absorbing the vine is easier. The Luo Fu Liu board is a little more troublesome. First swallow your blood. After which, keep it by your side and use your spirit energy to calm it down. This is a long-term process. You will need a long time to calm it down, only then will your spirit imprint be absorbed into it. The moment you succeed, this board will be able to merge into your skin and change into any shape. Babata said. Luo Feng was surprised. Change? Is it like the genetic energy armor? It can protect the body? Even though it can change into an armor, the board doesn't have the ability to automatically deflect attacks. The armor it forms is at most similar to the armor on your body, and can only be used to block attacks. Babata said, it's most proficient in flying. How fast it can fly will depend on your abilities. Of course it'll definitely be much better than the Dark Cloud Shuttle. Luo Feng nodded. He immediately took out the ancient peculiar stone board, simultaneously slicing his wrist, and fresh blood sprayed onto the board, dyeing it red. The stone board too swiftly drank the blood, especially the complicated engravings in the center of the board that formed the shape of a bird. It seemed to be moving. After feeding it with fresh blood once, Luo Feng used the board as a cushion, sitting crossed-legged on it, splitting out a thread of spirit energy to infuse it into the board, slowly calming it down and absorbing it, simultaneously accepting the demon note inheritance. Gold soul fruit, a very mysterious fruit. This fruit had miraculous effects even on powerful Undyings, much less Luo Feng. The lower one's foundation, the more obvious the effects would be. Luo Feng ate a gold soul fruit. He felt the transformation of his soul become extremely obvious. The color of his soul had become a mix of blood and gold. I've been receiving the inheritance here for more than 3 years. The survival mission on Fiend Mountain has long been completed. Luo Feng ordered, Babata, activate the virtual universe network and receive it. Understood, Babata replied. It was like a person concentrating on something and not wanting to be disturbed. Luo Feng accepted the inheritance and didn't want to pick up this call and that call. After all, if he didn't turn it off, his family and friends combined would probably call him once every 2 days on average. Connect to the virtual universe. Splitting a thread of consciousness to connect to the virtual universe network, he arrived at the virtual universe Yuxiang Mountain. Absolute beginning region Luo Feng's villa. Whoosh! Luo Feng appeared in midair. The guards and servants were all shocked when they saw Luo Feng. After which, they all came to their senses and bowed respectfully, Your Majesty. Your Majesty, Your Majesty. The leader of the guards, Ao Duo, who was lying on a chair far away, squinted his eyes and held a cup of wine. He immediately stood up and rushed over with a face full of joy. Your Highness, we haven't heard from you for a few years. We were all worried about you. Luo Feng smiled. Your Majesty, the news of you accepting the impossible level mission has long spread. Within Yuxiang Mountain, there's a rumor that you've fallen in Demon Mountain. The bald old man Ao Duo said. Fallen? Luo Feng frowned. This rumor, where did it come from? I don't know. Ao Duo shook his head. Luo Feng looked towards the southwest direction. The Primal Region was in that direction. He muttered, Mo Luo, the news of my fall shouldn't have been spread by you, right? However, don't rush. I'll give you a pleasant surprise soon enough. After which, Luo Feng swiftly walked towards his living quarters and entered his study. Sitting in front of his desk, he opened his laptop and swiftly sent a message to his friends, family and teacher, informing them that he was still fine. After a while, call after call. Luo Feng, you're too ruthless, disappearing for over 3 years. Furthermore, you lost contact with us during the impasse mission. You really scared us. We really thought that you had fallen in the Demon Mountain. Prince Wuka of the Manka planet shouted excitedly. Come to me immediately. I haven't seen you in a few years. I knew you definitely wouldn't fall. On the screen, Rong Jun smiled at Luo Feng. Dad. Grandfather. This is my great-grandson. Luo Feng. Luo Feng looked at his large group of family members on the screen. He couldn't help but think that the human race was the pinnacle of the universe. Their numbers were indeed an extremely important reason. He had left Earth for about 200 years. In these 200 years, his family back then only had a few people. His parents, his brother's family and his own family. And now, the entire Luo family had become a large family. If 1,000 years, 10,000 years, a million years passed, the family members in the millions or tens of millions was indeed a very normal thing. You return immediately. Su Xan on the screen seemed both happy and angry. Luo Feng nodded. And when Luo Feng was preparing to find his wife, his teacher Tru Yen actually personally came to the Absolute Beginning Region. Absolute Beginning Region, Luo Feng's living room. Tru Yen sat on the sofa staring at Luo Feng. Luo Feng stood obediently beside him. It's been over 3 years, no news at all. Tru Yan's gaze was like lightning, gazing at Luo Feng, and you're in Demon Note Mountain. Speak, why did you turn off the virtual universe network in Demon Note Mountain? Teacher. Luo Feng bowed respectfully. This time it's your disciple's fault. To Tru Yen, Luo Feng was extremely respectful. Different from Hu Yenbo, he had never truly met him. He had interacted with Tru Yen for far too long. After interacting for so long, Luo Feng was very clear on his teacher's character. He was extremely forthright, treating his disciple like a child. Extremely protective. A person could easily disguise for 10 or 100 years, however for 1,000,000,000,000 years, that wasn't disguising anymore. Tru Yan's character was publicly acknowledged in Primal Chaos City. After over 100 years of interaction, Luo Feng could feel his teacher's concern for him, immediately saying respectfully, your disciple has had some luck this time. Luck? Tru Yan's eyes gleamed. Inheritance Palace? Even though Luo Feng was shocked, he didn't hesitate, right? There was no other way to explain it because in Demon Note Mountain, unless one died or trained, there was no reason to turn off the virtual universe network. And training in Demon Note Mountain, other than the Inheritance Palace which had an extremely safe environment, there were no other places where one could train. Really? Tru Yen stood up fiercely, looking incredulously at his disciple. How can that be? How can you enter? Luck. Luo Feng laughed helplessly. And you still act so innocent. Tru Yen couldn't hide his smile, staring at Luo Feng. However, you shouldn't even have the ability to enter. Speak. How many Inheritance Palaces are there? 32. Luo Feng said. Ha 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 ha. Tru Yen couldn't help but laugh loudly. I didn't expect Mr. Emperor, that punk, to eat my disciple's foot wash. He's so unlucky. What's wrong? Luo Feng was curious. Tru Yen smiled at his disciple, explaining, the inheritance of the Demon Note Palace has been discovered long ago, and there are many warriors with the ability to enter. However, the slots are limited. Entering the palace this time, naturally you've taken up a slot. And this slot is Mr. Emperor's. His slot. Luo Feng was shocked. He really didn't know. These inheritances had all been reserved in advance. Ignorance is not a crime. You accepted the impossible mission to enter. Even if it's revealed in the future, no one can find fault with you. Tru Yen smiled. What's more, Mr. Emperor and his teacher aren't from the Virtual Universe Company. Hence there's no need to be afraid. What's more, I'll keep it a secret, you'll keep it a secret too, they might not even find out you entered the palace. Luo Feng nodded. Right. As long as he didn't say anything, even if people suspected, they wouldn't believe a universe level 9 could enter the palace. After all, he had already admitted it, even his teacher didn't dare believe it before. There's one more thing. Tru Yen looked at Luo Feng, that little genius Mo Luo from the Primal Region, he told me about you before. Mo Luo. Luo Feng's eyes gleamed, snorting softly, that punk is definitely an incomparably sinister person. On the surface he's very righteous, in truth, if it wasn't for my luck this time I would have been killed by him. So it was him who plotted against you. Tru Yen nodded. He even said before that you plotted against him. What? I plotted against him? Luo Feng couldn't help but curse within, this Mo Luo is shameless. Haha. Of the qualification battles, do you have confidence against him? Tru Yen said. Of course. Luo Feng's eyes gleamed. Tru Yen nodded, your encounter this time was indeed a huge one. It's a pity your soul is still very weak, the demon note inheritance you can receive is still very little. However, even so, that demon note inheritance is enough for you to enjoy for trillions of years. After training he knew how precious it was. From spirit energy amplitude of 70 to 80, now it had reached over 1200, it had increased by more than 10 times. What treasure, what weapon could have such terrifying effects? After a while Tru Yen left. Knowing that his disciple was safe he could relax. Luo Feng watched as his teacher vanished and couldn't help but feel grateful. Because his teacher didn't ask him how he entered the inheritance palace. Regarding the golden horned beast's identity, Luo Feng really didn't want to talk about it. Even his own brothers and parents didn't say anything, because he couldn't bring himself to say it. How to say it? That he wasn't a human in essence but a golden horned beast? In his heart, Luo Feng had always thought that the earth body was his true body. It's time to see my wife. Luo Feng immediately teleported back to Black Dragon Mountain Island 9-Star Bay. Luo Feng sent a thread of his consciousness into the virtual universe to comfort his family and friends. In reality he continued to stay in Demon Note Mountain's core, the inheritance grounds. In space, Luo Feng stepped on the inheritance stairs, advancing level after level. The gold soul fruit's effects were indeed very strong, causing his soul to undergo a complete change. Even after training for 5 years on the stairs, he didn't feel any strain at all. And at this time, the once-in-100 years qualification battles for the Virtual Universe Company universe-level core members were about to begin. In the depths of the core of the majestic Devil Mountain in the absolute beginning secret realm, within one of the Devil Note inheritance halls, there was a flight of stairs that extended continuously. There were 3,333 flights of stairs that extended for thousands of kilometers. The 166th flight of stairs. Luo Feng was dressed in his silver armor like a statue as he stood on the stairs with his eyes closed unmoving. His soul however was constantly evolving, countless engravings were infused into it. Suddenly Luo Feng, who was standing like a statue, opened his eyes. There was a glimmer of light in his eyes. Today is the day the qualification battle begins. The acceptance of the demon note inheritance has slowed down. Luo Feng looked down at his feet. Beside it was an ancient and peculiar long stone board, the Luo Fu Liu board. Merge. Luo Feng's thoughts moved and the board swiftly shrunk and merged into his feet. After close to 2 years of training, he had finally succeeded in leaving his spirit imprint on the board. The board could be big or small, changing into any shape, it could be infused into Luo Feng's skin, muscles or bones. Luo Feng split 90% of his consciousness and swiftly connected to the virtual universe. Leaving only 10% to continue accepting the inheritance, the training speed of the demon note inheritance immediately slowed down. Before he could advance 1 level a day, now it would take 10 days. Your Majesty. In the virtual universe absolute beginning region, the universe levels, domain lords, sector lord guards and the group of servants all bowed respectfully. Luo Feng nodded and immediately rushed into the sky, heading towards Wuka's villa. Wuka's villa had also become the gathering place for Luo Feng, Jiang Imo, Chen Shui, Rong Jun, Lancelot, Ao Patela, Ai Chen and Wuka. Flying high in the sky and looking down, Luo Feng saw with a glance that the other 7 had already gathered in the villa. Luo Feng. Quickly come over. The others at the outdoor dining table all looked up and shouted, obviously seeing Luo Feng. I'm coming. Luo Feng smiled. So, swiftly rushing down, he instantly flew 10 kilometers and landed on the grass patch. He walked towards the outdoor dining table and sat in the only empty seat of the 8. Luo Feng, today is the day the qualification battles begin. I reckon they'll gather everyone in a while, but you're still so slow. Look, the others are already here. You are the slowest. Do you think I'm not good enough? Wuka took a meter-long piece of roasted meat and took a few bites. He didn't know what kind of roasted meat it was. We'll talk after you finish eating. After Luo Feng sat down, he casually picked up a bottle of fruit wine in front of him, opened the cork and took a sip, immediately feeling refreshed. Beside the table, Ai Chen from the Dream Shell race was also holding a glass of wine. She smiled and said, Luo Feng is probably the one who feels the least stressed out among the 8 of us. The rest of us might be eliminated to the heaven and earth secret realm. As for Luo Feng, he definitely won't be eliminated into the sky and land region. Yeah. That group of old men have all passed the 6th level of the sky crossing bridge. Our chances are not high. At the dining table, The geniuses from the various races in the universe were all talking. You guys, Luo Feng put down the bottle not knowing whether to laugh or cry. That's why a certain someone is the last to arrive. It's because he's relaxed, Rongjun teased. You tease me too. Luo Feng shook his head. He had a 100% guarantee that he wouldn't be eliminated in the competition in the absolute beginning region. However, with different strengths, their goals were different. Wuke, Jiang Imo, Chen Shui and the others were all feeling terrible about being eliminated into the sky and land region. However, Luo Feng's goal was to think of a way to get into the primal region. And to get there, the difficulty was extremely high. Even with his current strength, he didn't have much confidence. Luo Feng. Wuke looked at Luo Feng. Luo Feng. Jiang Imo looked over too. Rongjun, Lancelot, one by one, put down their food and drinks and looked over. The 7 of them all looked at Luo Feng. Luo Feng was stunned. Madman. Wuke emphasized, you should know the situation of us newbies. Because we've just joined the virtual universe company. Hence in terms of strength, the gap between us and the old men is huge. Even compared to the 300 old men in the sky and land region, there's still a huge gap. Among the 8 of us, Rongjun might be able to fight and stay in the absolute beginning region. However, no matter how much he fights, he's still the weakest in the absolute beginning region. And the rest of us have no hope at all. The group was silent. Right. There was no hope at all. The absolute beginning elders and sky and land elders had a few tens who had passed the heavenly bridge's 6th level. In terms of origin law comprehension and battle experience, they all paled in comparison to the group of old men. They were destined to be eliminated. No hope at all. This feeling of helplessness made them feel terrible. Among the 8 of us, Luo Feng. Rongjun said seriously, staring at Luo Feng, only you can fiercely charge forward. 8 of them. The 6 of them had no hope at all. Rongjun had a sliver of hope to stay in the absolute beginning region. However, he would have to fight hard to stay. Luo Feng looked at the group of geniuses before him. They were all proud. However, when they couldn't see a sliver of hope, they could only unwillingly accept it. However, the anger and pressure within, they could only place their hopes on the similarly newbie Luo Feng. Relax. Luo Feng nodded. About half an hour later, a rumbling sound resounded in the absolute beginning region. The absolute beginning universe level qualification battles are about to begin, everyone gather. The 30 seniors and 8 newbies all looked up. The sound came from above the absolute beginning region. With their naked eyes, they could clearly see the purple uniform silhouette in the air. Immediately, the 38 universe level members of the absolute beginning region rushed into the sky. One after another, they all flew towards the purple-clothed man. Look, that's Ke Luo Fu, the strongest of the 30 seniors. Chemist Yu Feng. In mid-air, the group of geniuses observed their opponents. Because very soon they would be exchanging blows. Luo Feng too was observing the 5. The 5 absolute beginning seniors, the weaker Sa Jin, Fire Dragon, Guan and Ainan, and the stronger Chemist Yu Feng and Wolfman Ke Luo Fu. Sa Jin's dragon tail was sweeping about. His eyes seemed to be filled with flames as he stared at Luo Feng. His eyes were filled with fighting spirit as he communicated, Luo Feng, I lost last time, this time I'll definitely win. The reason he lost last time was mainly in terms of willpower. Under Luo Feng's consciousness pressure, he couldn't withstand it at all. The moment his willpower could withstand it, then his black hole evolution technique would be unleashed. Back then, Luo Feng probably wouldn't be able to withstand it. After all, Sa Jin had passed the 7th level too long ago. I beat you last time, I'll beat you again this time. Luo Feng looked at Sa Jin and communicated. Go. Luo Feng looked at another. Go was a battle maniac. Even though he was the last of the 5 to pass the 7th level, he was more like Rongjun. His battle talent was extremely high. Same origin law comprehension, however the battle strength he unleashed was extremely strong. He had messy yellow hair, and his eyes were half closed as he stood in mid-air. There was a small pair of ears hidden behind one pair of ears. He looked dispirited, but he faintly exuded the aura of a vicious beast. The other geniuses of the absolute beginning region all maintained a distance from him. Obviously they didn't want to get close to him. Ge glanced at Luo Feng. His eyelids drooped and his eyes gleamed before returning to his dispirited state. And Ainan. Luo Feng looked at the silver-armored youth. That youth had a smile on his face. He should be the most approachable amongst the 5. When Luo Feng looked over, the silver-armored youth and Ainan too smiled at him. Yu Feng. Chemist Yu Feng. He was the most mysterious and peculiar amongst the 5. His entire body was covered in a black robe. One could only see his cold eyes. Ke Luo Fu. Luo Feng looked at the strongest of the 5. Ke Luo Fu. Dressed in gray armor, his face had a yellow mane. His brown eyes gleamed with a green light. His mouth occasionally revealed his fangs. The feeling he gave Luo Feng was almost like a wolf. Ke Luo Fu seemed to notice Luo Feng looking over. He turned and looked over too, suddenly smiling. Rumble. Almost like a huge ferocious beast was staring at him. Luo Feng's hairs couldn't help but stand. Haha. Ke Luo Fu laughed softly. Interesting punk. The moment Ke Luo Fu spoke, it immediately attracted the attention of the seniors. Everyone including the chemist Yu Feng, when they looked at Ke Luo Fu, they couldn't help but feel a sense of nervousness. Luo Feng too stared at Ke Luo Fu. Even though he had seen Mo Luo of the Primal Region before, his subconscious felt. The absolute beginning region's strongest Ke Luo Fu was even more terrifying than the Primal Region's Mo Luo. This group of absolute geniuses came from different human races in the universe. 38 of them represented 38 different races. Their dressing habits were different too. Some were close to nature's green, some were close to fire, some gave off the feeling of ice. This group of geniuses were all very arrogant. However, amongst them there were 6 who were the strongest. The 5 strongest of the seniors and the strongest newbie Luo Feng. 6 of them. All of them had passed the Heavenly Bridge's 7th level. The qualification battles are simple. You 38, every one of you will battle the other 37. The winner gets 1 point. Losers and draws get 0 points. The final ranking will be based on points. The top 3 will have the right to fight for the Primal Region slot. Dressed in a purple uniform, a skinny man with purple lips said hoarsely, "There are a total of 5 in the Primal Region. They too will participate in the qualification battles. The bottom 3 will fight against the 3 strongest of our absolute beginning region. A total of 6 will fight for the Primal Region slot." Silence. Luo Feng, Ke Luo Fu, Sajin Fire Dragon, Chemist Yu Feng and Ainan and Gu, these SAX's eyes gleamed. Our absolute beginning 3 will fight against the last 3 of the Primal Region. There will only be one winner. LuoFeng's gaze swept past the other 5. These 5 and the 3 from the Primal Region, I have to defeat all of them. Only then will I be able to become a Primal Region member.